Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rangers Respite. I'm Philip. Today's Monday, and that means that it is time for another episode of the Blind Sample Swap, Series 1, which is off-topic whiskey. Randall has sent me a box of blind samples. I'm going through them one at a time. I am delivering my guesses as to what they could be, and I'm doing this ripping off Germ from Freedom Malts, taking his blind sample showdown format and guessing the generic category, generic proof or ABV, generic casking, and then specific category, specific ABV, specific casking, and then the distillery and the exact bottle. Now, it is a lot more challenging than it looks, but I've been doing okay. I have somehow made it uh, into the final for Freedom Malt's Blind Sample Showdown. Not really sure how I got there, but it's where I am. Now, on this coming Wednesday, the 1st of April, you can watch the Blind Sample Showdown to see who I will be up against. It will be either the Bourbon Vixen or Caitlin Bartlemy. Somebody who definitely has tried a better variety of things than I have, and definitely has a better, nose for bourbon than I do, and literally the master distiller for Hood River Distillers. The, genuinely one of the most skilled and knowledgeable people in the spirits industry that I have, communicated with. And that's not as low a bar as you may think based on my being a nobody. Caitlin Bartlemy is one of my heroes for a reason. And I am genuinely 100% sure that I will lose to whomever goes through. And it's going to be a good show. Now, let's talk about this. This is sample number 2 of the 5. It's a nice color. Let me put it against my big white billboard forehead. Nice sort of a ruby, dark copperish color. On the nose, definitely a bourbon. Ooh. Do I think it may be a finished bourbon? Maybe. It's definitely a bourbon. It's got all those classic bourbon notes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This is making me think of something really specific. I'll give you some notes so that those of you following along at home can have an idea of what I'm experiencing. Give me just a moment, though, because my allergies are kicking my butt today. Tell you what, the forsythias, the cherry trees, all the oak pollen, it's kicking my butt. Oh, and all the little violets and hyacinths too. So, on the nose, there's just an explosion of caramel and baking spices, a little bit of corn brightness, some nice cinnamon and barrel bitter, a little bit of char, a little bit of sweetness like maraschino cherries in there, just a little bit. Mm. On the palate, there's rich dark caramel, dark chocolate, that cherry note, little bit of vanilla, a little bit of cinnamon. Going back to the nose real quick. There's a definite note of like dusty rickhouse. A little bit of sweetness in there. It's a little bit proofy, but not too much. Mm. Coming back to the palate, there's some strong oak bitter in there, a little bit of char. Now I'm getting a little bit of like a orange pith note, like the bitter, white like stringy stuff on the inside of the peel. The finish is not too long, but what lingers is that like sharp barrel tannin note. Yeah, the finish starts off with some good, like bright spice notes and caramel. And then that oak bitter just kind of slowly takes over and really wipes the rest of it out. Very interesting. Now, let's see. Let's see if I can come up with some guesses. Of course, for generic category, I'm going with bourbon because I'm about 90% sure that's what it is. For, pardon me, for generic ABV, I'm thinking it's probably between 54-ish and 56-ish. So I'm going to go with 55, split it right down the middle. For generic casking, both because I think this is bourbon and because just from the palate, I'm going to go with new charred oak. So and I should have written out my card before I got started, but hindsight's 2020, and as you can tell, I do not have 2020 vision. All right, now specific category. I believe this to be straight bourbon. Just because I feel like it's got just a little bit of age on it. So I think it's probably between 4 and 6 years old, which puts it squarely into the straight category. All right. And for specific ABV, I'm going to take a gamble and actually guess lower on this one. If I'm within 2 plus or minus 2 on the Gen ABV, I'll get a point there. If I am dead on with this, I'll get a point. I've never gotten a point for a specific ABV. So for spec ABV, I'm putting 50. Yeah, hedging my bets, For specific casking, I'm going with New Oak. I believe this to be a bourbon. Now, it does not rule out that it might not be something that's double barrel. It's I have a couple of double barrel bourbons, and this does have like that, lots of oak profile, but also knowing Randall, and knowing where he is in the world, um, it would not surprise me if it's just Texas bourbon. In fact, I think it is because there's a note on it that makes me think of a specific Texas bourbon that I've had, but I know that it's not that, if that makes sense. I'm just talking my way into distillery guess. I think that this is Iron Root. Now, I've only had one thing from Iron Root, and it is not behind me because I don't have any. I don't have any Lost Lantern bourbon behind me. Uh, nope, I've got one, and it's not that one. Obviously, that's a New Holland, and I think this is a single barrel from Iron Root, um, which I don't know if Randall has any of. It's just a shot in the dark. It really is so much easier to sit here and do this in like 10 minutes without an audience, without having to like keep up with the jokes. Way easier. I always ask and answer 3 questions about every whiskey that I have on the show. First one is, do I enjoy it? Yeah, for a bourbon, this is pretty enjoyable. For those of you who don't know, I'm not really a bourbon drinker. Give me a rye. It's my primary spirit of choice. But as you may guess from the bottles behind me, I'm also a pretty big fan of American single malt whiskey. Yeah, pretty solid bourbon. Do I think it's a good value? The point is a moot because I don't know. If it is what I think it is, probably. I mean, I don't know the prices of Iron Root bourbons off the top of my head, but I understand that they are not uber expensive and that they are pretty solid bourbons for the cost. So there is that. And the third and final question, do I recommend it? Yeah, sure. I don't know what this is yet, but it's pretty good. I'm going to have to keep track of how I answered these 3 questions on all these. I'll come back, rewatch, and write it down. Oh, hey, Randall can give me a hard time about it. We get to the 5th and final sample. Now, really quick before you all go, I really appreciate all you guys sticking around, watching, liking, subscribing, commenting. All those things help me out. If you would like to do something a little bit more and get something physical and recompense, I have ballpoint twist pens and rollerball pens. These two are turned from a French oak ex cognac cask stave. That cognac cask held cognac for 45 years before being used to finish a peated American single malt in the Pacific Northwest. If you know, you know. With all that out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in and letting me ramble about this frankly beautiful whiskey. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, stay happy, stay geeks. Snatcha.